great week here in God's Word together. We are looking at the heart. Well, really more accurately, God is looking at our hearts because He is searching for hearts after His own. We've been examining the life of David through 1 Samuel 16 when David is chosen. And this is Friday, so this is also what we're calling Follow-Through Fridays. Let's take the truth we've learned, let's unpack it practically now and really apply it to our lives in a way that's so easy to understand and hopefully just a great way to bless us as well. So we're going to do that in four main ways. We're going to see from David's life here that David was used because of certain reasons. The first one I want you to see is this. The heart of David, he was used because his heart was found to be faithful in the field. Now, literally, this was a shepherd's field, but David was so faithful where he was. Now, that's a great challenge for us. It's a great thing for us to consider. Are we faithful where we are? Think about this. David was doing the job that no one else wanted to do. David was a shepherd. His 7 older brothers, they weren't doing it. He was relegated to there, but he was faithful where he was. We are called, loved ones, to be faithful where God has placed us. Where's your field? School, home, work, neighborhood? It's God's placement for you in the field that we're called to be faithful where we are. God will decide where we go next. Let's also see this. He was also faithful in the familiar. Being a shepherd wasn't that exciting, at least most days, the mundane, the boring. Maybe you feel your job is like that, or the things that you're doing. It's just, why am I doing this? But then all of a sudden, within the familiar, we know in David's story, a bear shows up. A bear shows up, David kills the bear. A lion shows up, David kills the lion. So within all the mundane, all of a sudden, God is using this to prepare David for what is next. And think about it, bear, lion, and then David would come up against a guy named Goliath. Ever heard of him? Oh yeah. And he goes up to Saul and says, I'll take him, I'll take him. Why? God had prepared him in the familiar for what was coming. How can that relate to your life right now? Thirdly, we see this. He was faithful when forgotten. Now this blows me away and kind of makes me laugh. In verse 11, it says this. Then Samuel said to Jesse, are all your sons here? Right? Because all the sons were called. And then Jesse says to him, he says, well, there remains yet the youngest, but behold, he is keeping the sheep. Okay, wait, time out. So you're telling me here that all the sons of Jesse were called, but David wasn't included? It's like kind of gathering for a family photo, but you leave out the youngest? Really? Like, that's so unkind. But this is what was happening. It shows you how little they thought of David. Jesse blew it, and all his brothers did too. Yet David was faithful even when he was passed over, totally forgotten, and left out. Can you be like that? Isn't that a challenge? The heart after God trusts Him even when we're forgotten. Wow, that is a test of our character. This is why David was so powerfully used. Lastly, we see this. He was faithful in the future. So David is anointed as the next king of Israel by Samuel. And you know what he does next? He goes back to the shepherd's field. How do we know that? God's word tells us in the next chapter. That's remarkable. Anointed as king and back to being a shepherd, the job no one wants to do. He was trusting God with his future. This shows you the heart that God is looking for. So we're called to be faithful in the field, in the familiar, faithful when forgotten, faithful in the future. Let's wrap up this whole week on the heart with our theme verse. Man looks on the outward appearance, 1 Samuel 16:7, but the Lord looks on the heart. Is your heart ready to be ministered to? Call us. We'd love to talk to you. 1-866-273-4444. God bless you today.